welcome to Revelations of Delusional Knitter. I'm Angela, your host. This is episode 99, and it is Thursday, August 14th, 2014. I will apologize in advance for the sniffles, but it was our anniversary yesterday, and my husband got me roses, which I'm pretty sure I'm allergic to because this happens every time. But I still don't mind him getting them. So I have some roses in my room here so that the cats don't chew on them. And they're giving me the sniffles. I did take my allergy pill, but it hasn't quite kicked in yet. So, updates and housekeeping. Welcome if you are new. If you are returning, I thank you as always. If you're on iTunes, if you leave a star rating and or review, I would appreciate it. Or comments on YouTube. And if you're a member of Ravelry, please come and join the Ravelry group. Week in review. So last Thursday, I think it was, I went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy with the friend I used to work with, and we go to a place called Chunky's, and what it is it's a pub / cinema. So you get to sit at a table and eat dinner while you're watching the movie. It's pretty cool, and the food is really good. And it's very reasonable, because the movie tickets are like $7.50, and then the food... We split an appetizer platter with like chicken fingers and fries and mozzarella sticks, and then got dessert and stuff, and like I pitched in $20, so totally reasonable. And the movie was really good. It was a lot better than I expected, actually. It was very, very good. It had this subtle humor throughout the entire movie that is really my taste, and the cinematography and the graphics and everything were really, really good, and I enjoyed it a lot. And let's see, yesterday I was gonna record, but what happened was I had to run out and do some shopping and stuff. It was raining all day, like downpouring, so I waited until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon to finally go out because it had let up. And I went to Walmart, and then I went to the mall, which is like 15 minutes away. Walmart's only down the street, to get my eyebrows threaded, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then I went to the mall, and then I came back and hit Walmart on the way back home. And when I went into Walmart, it was still only like sprinkling. When I came out, it was an absolute deluge. It was ridiculous. I got so soaked. The stuff I had purchased when I finally brought it in the house, because actually when I got home it was still raining so hard I didn't even take it out of my truck. I left it in my truck in the driveway because none of it was, food or anything. And when I took it out hours later, there was actually like puddles in the bags. It was so ridiculous. I got home, I was so wet, I looked like I jumped in the shower fully clothed. It was absolutely ridiculous. I have never been stuck in rain like that. It was just crazy. And it continued to rain like that for like hours afterwards, so when I walked out of Walmart, I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't stand here in the doorway, like, whatever. It was just crazy. So I was going to record yesterday, but then that happened, and then I was like, oh, forget it, because I was still soaked and everything, and I was just like, ugh. So I went and got my eyebrows threaded, and if you've never heard of that, or you don't know what it is, just look it up online, because there's lots of videos on it. And I like it a lot, and I'm going to definitely go back there because she did a really good job. I used to get them waxed at a place by where I used to work. We moved, but I still worked out that way, like 45 minutes away. So I would still go to that place because I would just go on the way home. I'm not driving 45 minutes to get my eyebrows waxed. And I've been going to a salon around here, but they did okay. They weren't terrible or anything, but they just weren't like the woman I used to go to. And the last time I got them done in June, I swear they grew back in like 2 weeks. It was like, I didn't even get them waxed after 2 weeks. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I was talking to a girl at work because her eyebrows looked fabulous. And I was like, hey, do you go around here somewhere and get your eyebrows waxed? And she's like, oh, no, actually, last time I got them threaded. And I'm like, oh, really? So she was telling me about it. And she's like, yeah, it's at the mall. And I was like, oh, yeah, I've seen that place. I just didn't, I've never heard of anybody going or didn't know anything about it, so I didn't really want to do it. And so she's like, oh yeah, you should totally go. So I did, and it was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous. It doesn't hurt. It's not comfortable. Like, I wouldn't want to do it all day, every day, but it doesn't hurt, it just feels strange, and it feels a little uncomfortable. So essentially what they do is they take cotton thread and they like loop it, but then there's a third strand that kind of goes like this, and then they yank. So the hairs get stuck in between the strands and then plucked. But they do it in like strips across, so instead of plucking an individual hair at a time, they'll get several hairs at a time. And they do it really fast, so it's just like bing, 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 you know, and then it was really cool, and I think she did a really good job, so I'll definitely go back there. Groundhog. I don't know that it was within the last time I recorded, but I know we have a groundhog that lives on our property, and it is the cutest thing, and we often scare the poor little thing because we'll go outside or something and startle it, and it'll run. And when I say run, it's a groundhog, so it's this fat little pudgy thing. So it's more like waddles really fast. It cracks me up. It was out in the backyard the other day eating clover, and I grabbed the camera and I got a little video footage of it, so I'll put that in here. So that's our little groundhog. Isn't it so cute? I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. I'm hoping it's a boy, because if it's a girl, it's probably going to have babies at some point and we'll have more, but it's been around for at least 2 years now. I haven't seen any more, so. And it doesn't seem to do any damage around the yard, so we're not bothered by it. Alright, that was Week in Review, so on to Revelations. I did some knitting! Yay! I did not do any more on the Knitters Guild, let me read my show notes instead of trying to make this up. By the way, I've been up since 2 a.m. It's 9:30 in the morning right now. Because I work the 11 to 7 shift now. My sleep got all messed up on my 2 days off. So last night, I fell asleep at 9 p.m. I woke up at 2, and I just said, why don't you just get up? Because then tomorrow, you can take a nap for a couple hours, and then you'll be awake to go to work at night. And I'm hoping not, but somebody at work just texted me and said, just to give you a heads up, there's OT tomorrow, 7 to 3, and you might get forced. So I may be working 11 p.m. tonight until 3 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow. A little punchy right now. So, knitting. I did not do any more of the Knitters Guild Association Master Hand Knitting Level 1. I will get back to that, but I was busy doing some other things. Ravello has a sleeve, which means I finished the body. So, here is Ravello. I don't know where it was the last time you saw it. By the way, I have a bunch of stuff on my desk. I'm knocking all over the place. But I finished the body, and I started a sleeve, and I was happy. Not that it mattered, but this is the number of stripes the pattern calls for. And this yellow is some Malabrigo that I had left over from a long cowl that I had done. So I didn't have what the pattern called for the contrasting color, but I had enough because I was able to complete the required number of stripes. And what I did was I split the two, the white and the yellow, I split in half for each of the sleeves. That way, because I didn't want to do one sleeve and do all the stripes and then find out for the other sleeve I could only do 3 stripes. That way I could do, if I could not do the full amount of stripes on each sleeve, I could at least have them even. So I split the balls in half, and this is how far I got on the first sleeve. So right now I'm past all of the decreases, and now it's going to be straight knitting till the ribbing for the cuff, and then this sleeve will be done. And I had like just enough of the contrasting color to complete the sleeve, and I had like just enough of the black to make the body the length that I wanted, although I probably have more black in my stash somewhere. This was all that I had left of the first yellow ball. So I actually could probably get one more stripe out of there, but I just wanted to do what the pattern called for. And this was all I had left of the black, which is a bit. So these will go into the sock yarn blanket stash, and then for the other sleeve I have the halves that I need once I start that one. So yay, Ravello's almost done. And the seasonal Sock Syndrome knit along socks that I've been doing forever it feels like now, are the 2 Socks in One by Kate Atherley. And it probably looks the same to you, but I think I have like another inch or 2 on the foot. So that's how far I've gotten with the foot. And I have managed to knit these 2 socks together at least 3 times, if not more. But I think I finally figured it out. What happens is, when I put it down and let it sit for a while, when I pick it back up, I think I'm switching the 2 yarns. Like this blue right now is the inside sock and the purple is the outside sock. And when I let it sit for a while and then pick it back up, I reverse them and I knit the socks together. So now I've been paying very careful attention when I pick the sock up again after it's been sitting for a little while and make sure I don't knit them together. Because the last time I picked it up, I realized that I had knit them together after I knit like 8 rows. Now, I very consciously make sure I'm not doing that, number 1. And number 2, after I complete the first round, I double check to make sure that I haven't knit the socks together. So far so good. That plan has been working, and I have not knit the socks together again. And that's all I've been knitting on right now. So we're on to string theory, which is spinning. And I have 6 skeins done for the year. I wanted to do 12, and I'm on my way to getting some more. So the first thing I have that I finished part of, if you remember, I did a review of the Manos del Uruguay extra fine merino fiber that I got, and I finished the first bobbin. What I did was I split this fiber into thirds, and I'm going to spin up 3 bobbins and then 3 ply it. So this is the first bobbin that's complete, and it came out very nicely. And I love this blue color. I'm not a blue person, but this is like a tealy, deep, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a grayish, bluish, tealy kind of color. I just love it, especially with the gold. So I'm really liking this. And this fiber drafts like butter. It is so silky smooth. It's just really nice to work with. Then on my supported spindles, I'm still what I call learning, meaning I'm not really good at it yet, but it's going well. So the 2 I've been practicing on recently is I have a Spanish peacock Russian that I've been practicing on, and that's going pretty well. And then I have this little Just Ducky 7.5 inch Russian that I started using the other day because I found I have shoulder problems with this shoulder a lot. I was using that other spindle. Now prior to that I think I used it and was fine, but I was using that other spindle the other day, and that one's 10.25 inches. This is 7.5. My shoulder was really bothering me. So I was like, well, why don't you try a shorter spindle and maybe that will be better. And it was. It still bothered me a little bit, but it was better. So this is the Just Ducky one. So I'm still spinning up. This is Into the World Merino Bamboo and Silk blend that I made little roll eggs out of. And that's going well. And my Threads Through Time spindle, I was doing the ply on the fly that I was doing for Tour Fleece, so I'm trying to finish up that fiber. This is also Into the World, and I don't know how much more I can get on this spindle. It's getting very heavy and it's getting very difficult to wind now, so I don't know. At this point I have 1.32 ounces on it. The spindle itself is only a 0.9 ounce spindle, but that's going very good as well. I don't remember. I had it, oh actually I think that notebook's right there. I weighed the fiber prior to starting, and I don't remember how much it was. Let me see if I have it here. Maybe it wasn't this notebook. Oh yeah, it was. 2.29 ounces. So I still have an ounce. I don't think that's getting on that spindle. I really don't. So that's spinning for this week. We are on to scrolls, and I do have a quick little book review. I'm not really going to review the whole book. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. And what it is it's technically a stitch dictionary, but it's a little different. It does have patterns in it. It's Up, Down, All Around Stitch Dictionary by Wendy Bernard. And the reason I got this is that it's a very different stitch dictionary. Like I said, it's got some patterns, but why it's called Up, Down, and All Around is because a lot of times you can't just take a pattern and reverse it or work it in the round if it was knit flat. You have to make some alterations to it. So what this is this is a bunch of stitch patterns, it says 150, that's already been done for you. So it gives you the stitch patterns flat, in the round, bottom up, top down, so that you can add them to whatever you want. If you wanted to add them to a sweater or a shawl, you can do that. I also love when knitting books are spiral bound, because while you're working with them, they'll sit flat on your surface. And let me just show you a little bit. It's very nicely put together, and it's got some patterns in it, like I said. So, for example, here's just one, but it's also got the usual knit purl, lace, cable. It's got all those different categories for stitch patterns. But here's an example. Here's, an example of the swatch, and then here are the instructions for the pattern. And here we have flat, and in the round we have written instructions and charted instructions. So it gives you everything you need to do that stitch pattern. Let me find. So here's one of the, just as an example, patterns. It's for this checkerboard mesh pullover. So you have the whole pattern in there too. And there's quite a few patterns. There's a shawl, there's a hat, there's that one. There's all kinds of things. So I like it a lot. There's also some edging patterns, and same deal. It's got flat and in the round and charted and written instructions. So some of them, like in edging, you probably wouldn't knit in the reverse, but you could. But here's, oh, here it is right here. There's bottom up flat, top down flat, so it gives you the different ones. Top down in the round, bottom up in the round. Here's an example. It gives you all of the 4 different ways that you can knit it. So I really like this book. I enjoyed it a lot looking through it the other day. I've had it for a little while, but I just didn't have time to look at it. And I found a stitch pattern in it that I'm going to try and make into an infinity cowl. I'll talk about those in a few minutes. So it's top, I'm reading the back. That is not the title on the back. Up, Down, All Around Stitch Dictionary by Wendy Bernard. It is put out by STC Crafts. It's $29.95 US. I know I got it on Amazon though, and I don't believe I paid that much for it. But yeah, it's really cool, different style of stitch dictionary. Alright, now we have testaments. I have some yarn that I got from Stitchcraft Marketing, and I was also going to be generous and have a giveaway for it. So this yarn is from Red Barn Yarn, and this is their Chunky Sparkle base in this gorgeous green hand-dyed colorway. And what it looks like is a single, a chunky single that's wrapped with this silvery looking thread, and it's lovely. It would make a lovely hat, cowl, mittens, I think, and it's really gorgeous. And you should check out their website because they have a lot of very different yarns. For example, this yarn is mohair and rambouillet. They have very different blends. They're rustic looking. They have some bases that look hand spun, and it's just a very unique, different kind of yarn than I've ever seen. And they have wonderful colorways. Their website's interesting too because it's split up into colorways, so you can look at colors, and then it'll show you what yarn bases those are available in. So, if you would like to win this skein of yarn, you can PM me on Ravelry and tell me what I just said this would make a good project for. That way I know that you actually watch the podcast. Alright, and check out Red Barn Yarn and their website. I also want to talk a little bit about Craftsy Classes, because I've had a few in my queue for a while that I've watched before, but I recently watched them again because I was doing certain things and needed the information. And the two of those is Shawlscapes by Stephen West. And he focuses a lot on the way you can shape a shawl and how the different directional increases work and how you can, not just if you've seen Stephen West patterns, you know what I'm talking about. You don't just do a triangular shawl. You do a shawl that is kind of like geometrically shaped. And his is really good. And then Lace Shawl Design by Miriam Felton. She's fantastic if you want to learn how to chart shawls if you're doing lace work, how to take an existing stitch pattern and plug it into a shawl chart, and different shawl shapes, different spines, different borders, all kinds of stuff. So hers are really good too. Now, if you're not interested in designing your own shawls, but you're not comfortable knitting lace, there are a couple of those classes as well. There's Lace Knitting Basics and Beyond with Uni Jang, and there's also Mastering Lace Shawls with Laura Nelkin. And those are more for if you've never knit lace or a shawl before. It goes through step by step. There's patterns that they provide for you, and you can knit along with the class. So, because I've been designing some shawls lately, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. If you do go sign up for a Craftsy class, if you could please go to delusionalknitter.com, click the sidebar link and do it through there, because I'm a Craftsy affiliate, I would greatly appreciate it. On to Heresy. So like I said, I have 3 new designs in the works. 2 are shawls. One I think is going to be a mystery shawl knit along again, because I did one last fall. And I initially thought it would work with variegated yarn, but I knit up this little swatch yesterday, and now I'm thinking not so much. So I'm going to have to swatch this one some more with different yarns and see what it works with. I also thought it might work with a self-striping based on the stitch pattern and how it works, but the only thing I'm concerned about is that towards the bottom of the shawl, when it increases a lot, that the stripes will no longer be stripes and they'll be very muddled. I don't know, so I might end up doing that one in like a tonal. The problem too is 98% of my stash for sock yarn is highly variegated, crazy colors. I'm sure you can see some of it back there and back there. I don't see a whole lot of tonals in there. So, yeah, I'll have to see what I have. Speaking of that, there is another shawl I designed that I'm going to bead that I had to buy yarn for. Yeah, with this crazy humongous stash. So, what I got was Malabrigo in the colorway Eggplant, and I had these beads in my stash, so that will be that shawl design. And that one, I'm just going to design the shawl and have the pattern available because I really think people should see it and not have it as a mystery shawl knit along. That was the one actually I was going to start with a mystery shawl knit along, but I think it's going to look really fantastic and it's going to look really good beaded, and I'd really rather people be able to see it because I think they'll be more likely to purchase it than if it's a mystery shawl and they have no idea what it looks like. So yeah. And I ran out of graph paper the other day, so I was making my own in Excel. Then at Walmart, I bought graph paper, and it's okay. It's still completely usable, but it got soaked on the way out of the store. So I was like, wonderful! So, yeah. But I'm glad I have the graph paper back because I use that a ton when I design. I use graph paper. So then I can sketch it out. What I typically do when I design a shawl, this is the actual stitch patterns graphed out, and then I'll put it into the shawl shape, and that works really well for me. And I like that a lot. Then, I typically knit it from that, because if I find any problems along the way, I can fix it on the paper, then I can put it into the computer software and chart it all out in there and produce the pattern. So yeah, 3 designs popped out of my head like that. It was crazy. Excited. Alright, sweater design. I still plan on doing the sweater design. What I'm doing is I have a couple of books that I really want to review, and I have 2 Craftsy classes that I want to complete before I do a sweater design. The difference is with shawls, it's typically 1 or 2 sizes. With sweaters, you have to grade them, because you're not going to be my size, you know, I'm not going to be your size. Everybody's a different size, and you need to provide a wide range of sizes for people, and that's the only thing I'm concerned about with doing a sweater right now. I can knit a sweater for me. Not so sure I can knit a sweater for you. So yeah, I need to work on that and really get the sizing and pattern writing down. Shawls are a lot easier to write the patterns for, because it's essentially a chart and then the written instructions for the chart. There's no more verbiage than that needed other than how you're casting on and binding off, and typically it's cast on and bind off. It's not really that big of a deal, where sweaters are much more verbiage needed to get the point across for the sweater pattern. So, alright, I really wanted to get this episode done in 30 minutes, but that is not going to happen because I'm already running out of time. So I'm going to pause here and come back with the rest of the show. Alright, on to part 2. I took care of my runny nose while I took a break. Let's see. Don't forget the seasonal Sock Syndrome knit along. This session ends September 21st, so get your socks in before then. And I will show the prizes for the drawings prior to that. And now we're on to Ravelry Patterns. I need to bump up my show notes here. Okay, so get my tablet here. Oh, jeez. You know, I probably should, I always like break at the same point. I should probably turn this on and get it ready before I start talking again. Anywho, the first one, I'm going to butcher this entire thing, is Baju Bakau by Asa Tricosa. And it's this lovely lacy sweater with bell sleeves. I love those. Although I've never made them or worn them, so I don't know if I really love them. And it's in a sport weight yarn. And I will show you. So this is the bottom of the sleeve and the body. And you can see the lace detail in there in the bell sleeve. And the rest of it is stockinette pretty much. But I love that lace detail. I really like that sweater. That one is $8.23 US, because I believe the original currency is in British. So then we have the Crazy Stripes Tee by Atelier Alpha. And that one, I think, may actually be my next one. After Ravello, this is so cool. So it's done in short rows. That's how you get the striping like that. But it's really cool. I really like stripe sweaters. That's why I did Ravello. And that one is $7 US. But there's also a cardigan and another sweater that's similar. And the 3 of them are in an ebook for $13. So you pretty much get one for free if you buy the ebook. And then there's Jen by, let me find it, Josie Paquin. And that one is $5.63 US, because I think it was originally in Canadian. It's another striped sweater. And that one's really cool. I actually have one like that that's like a store-bought one, but I'd really like to make my own. I think it would also look really good if you use different variegated yarns, or some solid, some variegated. I think it would look really cool. And that one's in a fingering weight, I think. Yes. Oh, Crazy Striped Tees was also in a fingering weight. And then the last one is On the Beach by Isabel Kramer. I always want to call her Isabella. Isabel Kramer, who did Ravello, I like all of her sweaters. I really, really like her sweaters. And that one looks like this, also stripy. And this one's a little different because it uses the contiguous sleeve method. So the sleeve looks like, there's a close-up picture of it, a set-in sleeve that you would seam, like you would knit a sleeve cap and then seam it in. But it's not. It's knit while you're knitting. So that's really cool. And I forgot to look up who did the contiguous sleeve method, but if you look up that, it tells you who it was. And I think also that, and that pattern's free. I think also that I really want to do that sweater because of that sleeve method, because I hate seaming. I do it very well, but it takes me forever because I'm really OCD about it. And I will rip it out a bajillion times until I get it exactly right. So I don't really like doing it. I can do it, I just don't like it. So I would really like, I like the look of the set-in and the cap sleeve, but I don't like doing it. So that's really cool because you can do that right while you're knitting it. Okay, on to Delusional Jabber. Most of the time I feel like the entire show is Delusional Jabber, but okay. Let's see. I haven't done really anything but knitting, spinning, working. So I don't have anything else. I don't have any games. I don't have any other crafting right now. Reading, I've been doing. I did finish this morning when I got up at 2. I finished spinning this bobbin, and I finished Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, and it was very good. And towards the end, it kind of wrapped up. I had mentioned before, I think you'd be better served to read it than listen to it. Towards the end, it made a lot more sense. I still think you'd probably be better off reading it than listening to it, or if you were listening to it, paying more attention. The entire time I was listening to it, I was spinning or knitting, so I don't know that I was really paying attention all that much. But there's a lot of characters that are converging in the storyline, and it bounces from this group to 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 this group. So if you're not paying attention, you have no idea what's happening or where they are in the story. You do, but you don't. I think you understand what I'm saying. So I finished that one. And then I'm still reading Getting Old is to Die For by Rita Lakin. That's one of the cozy mysteries. And I think it was halfway through the last time I looked. I was reading it the other day at work. And TV. The Will Wheaton Project had its finale. And I was so excited when I saw the commercial because John Barrowman was on it. John Barrowman is Captain Jack Harkness from Doctor Who and Torchwood. And I love him. He's so funny. And he is openly, blatantly gay when he's not being a character. Actually, usually when he's a character, he is as well. So Will Wheaton went on a lunch date with him, and it was hysterical. They were goofing off and being silly, and, you know, it was just so funny. Under the Dome, I think I'm caught up on. The Last Ship, I'm caught up on. That one's still really, really good. Murder in the First had the finale. That entire series was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. So if you like crime, I guess it's a drama. It wasn't really dramatic, but it was good. If you like crime stuff, that was an excellent series. Dominion, I think I'm caught up on. And by the way, what will be this shawl was inspired by Dominion. And I will reveal the name later. That name isn't actually in Dominion, but it has to do with, like, archangels and stuff. I watched the season premiere of Legends with Sean Bean, and it was really good. It was really good. And it was funny because when I first started watching, he's an FBI agent that goes undercover. And when it first begins, he's undercover, but you don't really know that yet because you just started watching the show. He's this dorky, self-conscious, like, guy. And I'm sitting there, and he's got glasses that, like, really don't fit his face, and they're big, and his hair's all mussed up. I'm watching this, and I'm like, okay, last time I checked, even though he's a little older now, Sean Bean was pretty hot. And that's why I'm watching this show. This is not attractive at all. So, he's in character. Now, given that, he's an excellent actor, because he'll slip from the dorky, self-conscious guy to this suave Sean Bean guy like that. It's amazing. I also liked that because he's an FBI agent, right? He's American, right? When he's himself, he speaks with his English accent. I'm watching the show and I'm like, it's supposed to be the FBI. I get the English accent and I enjoy it, and that's fine. But I'm like, what the? One of the characters, like halfway through the show, says to him, oh, you and I have a lot in common. And he goes, oh, really? What's that? Because she's this little skinny girl. And she goes, oh, we're both army brats, except my dad wasn't stationed in Europe, so I don't have this fancy accent like you do. And I was like, oh, they just explained it. It's just funny. I just found it very amusing. And then, the other thing I've been watching is Sons of Anarchy. Girl I work with, on the 11 to 7 shift, we can watch TV. Sometimes we'll get through like 3 or 4 hours of TV, depending on the evening. And she had watched Sons of Anarchy. Season 7 is starting, and she wanted to start from 1 again and catch up and then roll back into 7. I had never seen Sons of Anarchy, so we're watching it together, which means we only watch it at work together. So when we're at home, we don't watch it. So we were all the way up to season... Were we at 2? It might have been 2. But we got a lot done since we started watching it. And that one's very good as well. It's really good. When I first saw it was on and saw the commercials and stuff, I was like, what is this? But it's actually very good. And then, yesterday, I watched the first episode of Outlander. That's the new Starz show. I'm sorry. Again, got up at 2. That one was excellent because one of the things I found very interesting about it is that, you know, there's a lot of TV shows and movies where people get thrown back in time. Because what happens is she's a nurse, an army nurse, and she's back from the war. Her and her husband are kind of getting back together because they've been apart for 5 years. So they go on a holiday. It's English. And while they're there, in Scotland, I believe, she gets sucked back in time to like the 1700s. And now most TV shows and movies that are something like that, it's all fun and games, you know, oh, I'm in medieval times, I'm going to eat a turkey leg and have a flagon of beer, and it's all, you know, happy funny. If you think about it, if all of a sudden you were thrown back into medieval times, you could just turn around and get your head chopped off by a sword. Like that. So when she first awakens, because she kind of like passes out and then wakes up, in the new time, she's walking around and she's like, where is the car? Where is the city? Like, what is happening? She's walking around. There's British soldiers and Scottish, this is a mouthful, Scottish soldiers fighting each other in the woods. And it's narrated by her own internal thought, out loud so you can hear it. And she's saying, you know, I first thought that I had stumbled upon a movie set or something. Then she gets shot at. Spoiler alert, by the way, sorry. I'm not going to give away too much. And she says, but why are they using live ammo if they're filming a movie? So then she's running. And it's like, that's what it would really be like if you got thrown back in time. And you could really feel her terror. And it's just terrifying, you know, to watch her running through the woods. And it wasn't overdone, and it wasn't ridiculous. It was very well done, but you could feel, like, what would I do if that happened to me? Like, what would I do? Would I like curl up in a ball and cry? I don't know what I would do. If I was in that situation, it would be crazy. So that one's very good as well, and I'm very happy with how they did it. It's really good. I'm still waiting for Grace Point. I have to look that up again because I'm not sure when that starts. Doctor Who starts August 22nd. So excited. There's a new Doctor, though. So we'll have to see how that goes. Although I was very upset when there was a new Doctor with Matt Smith, and I loved him a lot. He's still not David Tennant, but I really liked him. And I think that's it for this episode, because I've babbled on long enough. So, yeah, there'll be some new shawl designs coming up soon. I still have to knit them all, so it'll be quite a while. I'm really considering doing one as a mystery knit along again this fall. And spinning, knitting, everything's going well. And yeah, I think that's it. So I thank you for joining me, as usual, and putting up with my crazy babble on this 11 to 7 shift where I'm just loopy. And happy knitting and spinning.